Dr. Robert Young is widely recognized as one of the top researchers and clinical scientists in the world. He has developed his life to researching the true causes of disease, subsequently developing something known as the new biology to help people around the world reverse any sickness, any ailment, any disease, and to begin to rebalance their lives, reclaim their health and their wellness. Is that a quadrillion-dollar enterprise is at work amongst us, decimating, culling the human family.
Intentionally,
using synthetic molecules, which by design are cancer, AIDS, all of the bogeymen we could dream up.
Yeah, it's for the purpose of sterilization and population control. There's too many people on the planet we need to get rid of. In the words of Bill Gates, at least 3 billion people need to die. So we'll just start off in Africa. We'll start doing our research there, and we'll eliminate most of the Africans because they're deplorable. They're worthless. They're not part of this world economy. So they have their rights taken away, and they're suppressed, and they're experimented.
And the multilateral agencies and the health and regulatory so-called authorities and agencies appear in the main to have become weaponized and appear, I again use the word appear advisedly, we're not casting judgments here, we're taking depositions, listening to expert testimonies, appear to be weaponized and appear to be working in collusion against the living men and women of the soil. Is that a fair statement?
It is. It's not a bacterial war. It's a systemic poisoning war, and they're using chemical warfare against all of us.
A colleague of mine, and I make it clear when I say a colleague, someone I know professionally, who is very highly placed. He's not a friend. He's just someone I know who went to the conference at Davos just recently. And the people who go to Davos are the architects and controllers of money and the politics of the world. And he came back and he said to me that it is a definite systematic plan, because they have worked out they need to get rid of at least a third of the people on the earth. And I said to him, does that include me? And he said, no, it doesn't include you because you're of European stock.
You're one of us.
Yeah, well, these are not my words. These are Bill Gates' words. Yeah. Just Google Bill Gates and depopulation and sterilization. You'll hear out of his own mouth the plan. Yeah. And then if that's not enough for you, then listen to Henry Kissinger in his words, where he talks about how this is a win-win situation, and the mandation and mandating vaccines is part of the plan for depopulation and I shared this slide with the New Earth conference, that 95% of all sickness and diseases are caused by what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, and what you think. And I added additional thought in there, what you believe. Your beliefs become biology. Only 5% of all sickness and disease is caused by genetics. And yet, that 5% of genetics is only triggered based upon what you eat, what you drink, what you think, and what you believe. So you have to manage your thoughts. You have to manage your beliefs, because they do change the biochemistry of the body. Therefore, 100% of all sickness and disease is caused by what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, what you think, and what you believe. So begin to get ready to have everything that you thought you knew about biology and chemistry and medicine literally be destroyed in front of your eyes. In getting this truth out, I would like to provide 2 papers that are published: The Possible Cause of Polio, Post-Polio, CNS, PVIPD, Legionnaires, AIDS, and the Cancer Epidemic. And the reason I did a hyphen, because I know these aren't viruses. It's mass chemical poisoning. The people in New Zealand that are doing this aren't doing it to kill the rats. The people that are doing this in India are not doing it to kill the rats. The people that are doing this in New York are not doing this to kill the rats. They are doing it to kill humanity and to wipe out the scourge of billions of people, of those who they considered, the deplorables, quote, unquote, Hillary Clinton. So you asked a question of Dell about vaccinations. This is what a child in the first years of life receives in micrograms and milligrams, etc. 17,500 macrograms of phenoxyethanol, antifreeze, the first 6 years of life. 5,700 micrograms of aluminum, a known neurotoxin. Unknown quantities of bovine serum, 801.6 micrograms of formaldehyde, a carcinogen, embalming agent. 23,250 micrograms of gelatin, animal carcass soil. 500 micrograms of human albumin. 760 micrograms of monosodium glutamate. Unknown quantities of Merck, MRC5 cells, aborted human babies. More than 10 micrograms of neomycin, an antibiotic with cross M bones on it. More than 560 micrograms of polysorbate 80, 160 micrograms of potassium chloride, 188 micrograms of potassium phosphate, 260 micrograms of sodium bicarbonate. That's the only one that I agree with, by the way. And the list goes on. 270 micrograms of sodium borate, 54,100 micrograms of sodium chloride, it's table salt, unknown quantities of sodium citrate, unknown quantities of sodium hydroxide, 2,800 micrograms of sodium phosphate, unknown quantities of sodium phosphate, monohydrate, which are toxic to the body. Sorbitol, 32,000 micrograms. Streptomycin, 0.6 micrograms. More than 40,000 micrograms of sucrose, cane sugar. 35,000 micrograms of yeast protein. Promotes, compromises the environment, which leads to an increase of fungi. We have documented this in the blood. 5,000 micrograms of urea, metabolic residues of human urine. This is what we are injecting into our newborn babies. As I said earlier, not in this format, the only thing you prove by vaccinating your children is that if they live through it, is you just poisoned them and they survived it. There is no such thing as providing immunity or antibodies against these so-called assaults when it's not about the matter, it's about the environment around the matter. People still get sick, and I'll give you some statistics here as it relates to this, particularly measles. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this may be information overload. This was viral existence has never been scientifically demonstrated, has never been proven. All viruses from HIV, EBV, CMV, hepatitis C, West Nile virus, Ebola, measles, Zika, polio, the list goes on and on. This is how you centrifuge for determining or demonstrating the existence of virus. This is what they talk about that they do. Now here's the fraud. They don't do it. And if they do it, they don't find a virus. So there's now over 100 years of documented history and research on the polio virus and the measles virus, well, maybe less, 50 years, whether or not its treatment by inoculation has been successful in eradicating polio. I am suggesting in my article and in my lecture that there are significant findings based on historical and past and current research, including my own, that viral theory of polio and possibly other modern-day diseases, such as post-polio syndrome, and the list goes on, and other related DDT pesticides are caused by DDT-related pesticides, acidic vaccination, and other factors, including lifestyle dietary factors, rather than from one lone Pasteurian theory document to validate this theory. Look at the graph. Polio in the United States graphic timeline, 1870 to 1998. Look at when they took DDT out. What happened? Not because of vaccination. In fact, the Salk vaccination actually caused more polio. The reason why was it was because of chemical poisoning from that vaccine and any other, on top of that, the acidic condition of the interstitial fluids, which currently are unknown to modern medicine, untested by modern medicine. And so you see polio incidence and pesticide production as it rises up and as it drops down. So we're going to be seeing more incidents of paralysis. What they do, we can't have polio. We've already cured that. So we're going to put another name on it. That's what they do in the cancer business. That's what they've done in HIV. HIV will just quietly go away, and there'll be a new name for AIDS, acquired immune deficiency. Polioincitis incidence timeline from 1912 to 1970. Why is polio on the rise? Because DDT somewhere in the world is being used, and they're importing that food into the U.S. market. And if it's not DDT, it's Roundup. We need to educate our children about these fluids. These are the critical numbers in the prevention and reversal of any cancerous condition. Venous pH, 7.365. Arterial, 7.4. Intracellular, 7.2. Interstitial, 7.36. Bicarbonate venous, 22. Arterial, 24. Intercellular, 10. Interstitial, 24. Sodium, venous, 130. Arterial, 137. Intracellular, 100. Interstitial, 135. Urine, a pH of 7.2 or greater. If it's less than that, you are in metabolic acidosis in the interstitial fluids of the interstitium. And it's very simple. All you do is pee on some pH hydrant paper. And if it doesn't come out green or blue, you better think about what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're thinking, and how you're living. Because if it ain't green, it ain't clean. We talked about the acidic buffers and how the stomach is the major organ for alkalinity and produces sodium bicarbonate to protect the body. This is how acid is made. But on the equation, H2O, CO2, NaCl produces what? A molecule of sodium bicarbonate plus HCl, which is hydrochloric acid. That is the equation. Focused to keep their theory alive that the stomach is a digestive organ. Folks, it doesn't digest diddly squat. Whatever you swallow comes out the same way. Let me just give you one of the cases. It's very important. I call it the white box because within the white box, which was never unveiled in court and was later burned because of private rights, even though it belonged to Simon Hudson, who brought the white box, documenting over 2 years the cure for cancer. This was never presented. He was not allowed to testify. This was the patient. This was the person who had all his medical records. He was not allowed to testify. You cannot testify in the state of California if you're not a medical doctor. If you're not a medical doctor, you can't talk about medical things. Even though it's your body, these are your records, you can't say, hey, I had cancer, I don't have it, and here's the evidence to prove it. We don't have this once, we don't have it twice, we have it thousands upon thousands of times. The proof for this. This was presented and monitored by the University of Southern California. Dr. Andy Gill, who's a respected surgeon, he wanted to know, because he's tired of removing prostates that potentially would not have to be removed if this option was available for all humanity. I got to share just two people. My daughter, who was diagnosed with brain cancer, this is what she followed. We have a simple program. It works, and it's directed specifically at the interstitial fluids of the interstitium. This is published. The science on this: 59-year-old male, MRI blood tests, reveals cancer, prostate, 3 lesions, hepatitis C, and cytomegalovirus, which are basically bacterial phages, enlarged prostate, arteriosclerosis, high PSA, high Gleason score, high bilirubin, low pH, low sodium bicarbonate, 24 months of treatment, reversed all conditions. We presented that to the trustees. They brought in their actuaries. The treatment runs around $800 versus $15,000 to $30,000 a day on conventional treatment. Financially, they cannot afford to implement a program like this, because if they do, they can't sustain their salaries and sustain their current budget that they have intact. So this was the blood before, this was the blood after. He did 3 biopsies. How do you identify cancer? You have to identify cancer by tissue samples. 3 biopsies taking between 16 to 18 tissue samples. No cancer anywhere in the prostate, in the uterus, all the way up to the kidneys. Tissue samples were taken. He was declared. Last one, and then I'll turn it over to you, Sasha. Thank you so much for your patience on this. Pulmonary adenocarcinoma lung cancer is responsible for 40% of all lung cancers. It is incurable. There is no treatment. If you're diagnosed with this, you have anywhere from a few weeks to 6 months. This woman came to the ranch. Sorry I haven't enough time to show you the ranch. I'd love you to see it. Diagnosed by PET scan, CT scan, no chemotherapy, no radiation, no surgery. She came to the ranch. We put her on that Perfect Health program. We focused on those items that I showed you briefly, which are totally non-invasive. And this is why I was arrested. I was arrested, thrown in jail. On Wikipedia it says for 3.7 years. I was in jail for 5 months. But it doesn't sound good. That's not long enough for somebody that's really breaking the law. Just 5 months. I agreed to that 5 months because I didn't want to go through the hell that they were putting me through. And my family said, Dad, let it go. You are not your titles. You are not your research. We love you who you are. Let it go. Your work stands for itself. We know who you are. The world will know who you are. And now, you all know who I am.
Dr. Robert Young, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Chief Justice, any questions from you?
Only one, a fairly simple one. If one wants not to have cancer or have disease, can it be done just by simple lifestyle changes of not eating meat, not drinking, eating the right foods?
There's loads of research, as you know, if you smoke and stop smoking, your chances for lung cancer goes down. There's loads of research, including my own. If you stop eating beef, chicken, pork, and fish, your stomach cancer, incidence of stomach cancer and bowel cancer basically goes to zero. Okay? There is a cancer for every food you eat. If you drink alcohol, if you want to prevent cancer of the liver and the pancreas, number one cause of pancreatic cancer is alcohol.